The air hung heavy in the Nemarian Wilds, thick with dragonflies and secrets. Deep within the emerald embrace of this ancient forest, where the trees dripped with moss and the rivers flowed like black ribbons against the verdant backdrop, there existed a kingdom few knew about. Here, nestled between towering trunks and shrouded in mist, lived the frogfolk, an amphibious race with skin the color of jade and eyes like polished amber. They thrived in this realm of water and wood. They were nimble, wise, and fiercely protective of their home. Yet even their strength was tested when one day the tranquility of the Nemarian Wilds was shattered by a rumor as chilling as a winter night. A shadow fell over the frogfolk kingdom, stark and cold. Whispers rode the breeze from the outer borders of their territory, tales of armored figures marching inwards. These weren't ordinary men. No, these were mercenaries, soldiers of fortune who followed only gold. They bore the crest of the Iron Pike, a band of cutthroats known for razing cities in exchange for the right price. And the whispers spoke of a warlord, Lord Venric of Brathmore, a man as ruthless as his mercenaries and twice as ambitious. His desire to conquer the south and add the Nemarian Wilds to his domain. All he needed were men to do his bidding. And now the Iron Pikes stood ready, their greed a whetstone keen on their blades. This intelligence reached the elders of the frogfolk, gathered at the time in the great lily pad, the largest and oldest gathering place in their domain. Here, nestled amidst giant lily that served as homes for generations of their kind, the frogfolk leaders discussed the impending threat. Among them sat Takar Redband, his rust-colored scarf a stark contrast against his green skin and amber eyes. His gaze, steady and clear, reflected the flickering light of the eternal flame burning nearby. Takar was a warrior, a defender of the faith and traditions of his people. His lineage traced back to the very origins of the frogfolk, a fact denoted by the red band around his left arm, a symbol of the ancient pact made between their kind and the spirits of the swamp. As the elder council spoke, Takar's thoughts raced, calculating probabilities, assessing risks. He respected his elders, their wisdom and insight were cornerstones of their society. But he also knew the time for action was nigh. Outside, the Iron Pike prepared for their incursion. They advanced in organized columns, their heavy armor making them appear like metal colossi amidst the greenery. Their leader, Sir Haven, a man whose reputation preceded him, spurred his men onward, eager to claim his prize. For Haven, the Nemarian Wilds was just another conquest, another notch on his belt of conquests. He cared little for the sanctity the frogfolk held for their lands. To him, the forest was nothing but an obstacle, a challenge to be overcome for the amusement of it. He hadn't reckoned on Takar and the frogfolk's fierce loyalty to their home. When the decision to defend their homeland was made, Takar took charge, rallying his fellow warriors, issuing orders, coordinating strategies. He knew the landscape intimately. He understood the moods of the swamp, the rustle of leaves, the murmur of the water. He knew how to use these elements to their advantage. Thus began the preparation. Defenses were set up, traps were baited, and most importantly, allies were sought. For the frogfolk weren't alone in their domain. They shared their home with all manner of creatures, some friendly, some not so much. But today, under Takar's call, all was forgotten, all was forgiven. Snakes slithered from their lairs, herons took flight, and even the crocodiles, those ancient guardians of the waterways, heeded the call. As the Iron Pike approached, unaware of the chaos that awaited them, Takar stood firm, ready to face whatever came. His armor, a mosaic of woven bark, hardened by swamp resin and polished copper plates, was etched with toad runes, symbols of power and protection. Around his neck hung charms carved from frog bone, each one a prayer to the spirits of the swamp. At his side, his twin spears, Whistle and Fang, glinted in the dappled sunlight. When the moment arrived, Takar led his kin into the fray, a chorus of croaks echoing through the trees. The battle was joined, and it was a sight to behold. Warriors clad in bark armor dueled with mercenaries in steel, leaping and lunging, their movements as fluid as water. Spears clashed against swords, sending sparks flying. Meanwhile, snakes tangled mercenaries' legs, and herons swooped down, pecking out eyes. Crocodiles, those lords of the waterways, patrolled the edges, snapping jaws at any who dared venture too close. Poison dart frogs, tiny but fierce, bombarded the intruders, their poison as potent as any venom. The very ground seemed to rise against the iron pike, roots ensnaring ankles, pulling men down into the mud. And through it all, Takar was a whirlwind, a red streak amidst the green and gray. He moved like lightning, striking with precision and vanishing like a whisper. His warriors fought with equal fervor, driven by a love for their land and a respect for their heritage. It wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a battle to protect their way of life. Amidst the cacophony of battle, there was a lull, a brief pause in the fighting. During this moment of respite, Takar, his armor dented but his spirit unbroken, turned to face Sir Haven. He knew he couldn't let this conflict drag on. The longer it lasted, the more casualties there would be, so he decided to end it. There was a glint of admiration in his eyes as he looked at his adversary. He saw not just a ruthless mercenary, but a worthy opponent. Taking a deep breath, he charged, his spears held high. The earth trembled as Takar leaped, a testament to his frogfolk heritage. He was strong, yes, but his real power lay in his agility, his ability to strike from unexpected angles, to be swift where others were constrained by their bulk. He danced around Sir Haven, frustrating the man, baiting him, waiting for his chance. Suddenly it came. Sir Haven, in a moment of anger, lunged forward, his sword raised high. This was what Takar had been waiting for. With a burst of speed, he sidestepped the attack, appearing behind his opponent in an instant. In one fluid motion, he flipped, bringing his spear down hard, forcing Sir Haven to the ground. He pressed his advantage, pinning the man's shoulders with his knee, his spears now at the mercenary leader's throat. Sir Haven, his face pale, his armor crumpled, tried to speak, but Takar cut him off. His voice was calm, leaving no doubt as to his authority. "Surrender," he demanded, "and perhaps you will yet live." The rest of the battle played out like a well-rehearsed dance, the iron pike surrendering in droves. The battle won, Takar stood tall, his chest heaving, his eyes scanning the battlefield. It was then that he noticed a lone figure kneeling amidst the wreckage, a young woman with long flowing hair and skin the color of burnished copper. She wore clothes of fine linen, and around her neck hung a pendant depicting a snarling wolf. She was a noble, no doubt a captive of these mercenaries, and Takar, ever the chivalrous warrior, rushed to her aid. In the aftermath of the battle, the Nemarian Wilds was quiet. The sounds of battle replaced by the buzz of insects and the murmur of the healing waters. The frogfolk, their wounds tended to, celebrated their victory with songs and dances. The young ones, wide-eyed, listened to the tales of bravery, their tiny hands clutching at their parents' robes. And as the night deepened and the moon climbed higher, Takar sat alone by the river, lost in thought. His mind raced, trying to make sense of everything that had transpired, the suddenness of the attack, the ferocity of the battle, and above all, the identity of the captive noble. He knew he couldn't keep her hidden forever. Eventually, he'd have to decide her fate. And as the first rays of dawn touched the treetops, he made his decision. He would take the noble to the Council of Elders. They would decide her fate, offering her sanctuary, or, if necessary, finding a way to send her back to her people. As he led her through the misty forest, the sun filtering through the leaves to paint dappled patterns on the ground, he couldn't help but admire her resilience. She walked with a strength that belied her delicate frame. When they finally reached the great lily pad, The elders were waiting, their faces etched with concern. After hearing Takar's report, they went into deep discussion, their voices low, their expressions grave. After what felt like hours, but was likely minutes, they emerged, their decision clear. They would offer the noble sanctuary, granting her asylum in their midst. News of this spread quickly through the Nemarian Wilds, and soon the entire community was buzzing with activity. Food was gathered, homes were prepared to welcome a guest of such importance. Over the next few days, Takar found himself drawn to the noble. Her name, he learned, was Lyria Dawnstrider. He admired her spirit, her kindness, and he found himself falling in love with her. They strolled through the misty forest, their laughter echoing through the trees, or sat by the riverbank, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple. One evening, as they sat in comfortable silence, Lyria turned to Takar, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Takar," she began, "I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am to you, to your people, for saving my life, for welcoming me into your home." Takar blushed, his gaze dropping to the ground. "It was my duty, Lyria. Besides," he added with a smile, "it's not every day we get visitors from beyond the wilds." Lyria laughed, a sound as bright as a heron's call. "True," she conceded. "But you, Takar, you are more than just a defender of your people. You are a beacon of courage, a protector of the innocent. You are the leap of Takar." And as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Takar's legend grew, carried on the winds through the Nemarian Wilds, a testament to his bravery, his honor, his heart.